Now, what do you do when you expect a laid-back day, but it turns out otherwise? Well, that should give you an idea of how things turned out this week in the National Assembly. With the lawmakers away on recess, little was expected to happen in the National Assembly, but, well, a lot happened. I'm Lanre Lasese. Welcome to your legislative program, The Gavel. Now, the week started with some events in the House of Representatives. Let's start with that.
Part of what
the caucus of the People's Democratic Party in the House of Representatives say President Buhari's probe of corrupt practices must be carried out without discrimination among politicians and government officials. The caucus made this position clear while meeting with journalists in the National Assembly. The party said it is not against the probe of corrupt officials, but that the exercise must not exclude members of the All Progressives Congress.
We are asking that everybody, without exception, whether he is PDP or he is APC, and by the way, don't you forget that more than half of the people, the leaders of APC are PDP members. We have about 3 national chairmen of the PDP in APC. We have Barnabas Gamade, we have Baraje, we have Audu Ogbe, we have national secretaries of the PDP in Ngodo, in APC. Are you saying that once you move out of PDP to APC, you are no longer nothing against you? You become bulletproof against. We are saying that the corruption should be fought holistically. As our jurisprudence is that a crime has no status of limitation. So you cannot come and draw an arbitrary line and say that a crime that you committed in April 2010 is not a crime, and what you committed in May is a crime. That would be against our law and constitution. What we are saying is that if the legal system should be used, corruption cannot be fought on the pages of newspaper, for God's sake. People are supposed to be charged to court.
A federal lawmaker has voiced his support for calls for a reduction in the salaries of members of the National Assembly. The lawmaker said the reduction should be, however, across board. He said the 8th National Assembly has already made sacrifices by reducing their salaries by 30%.
I think it was a mistake that the houses were sold in the first instance. I don't know whether it was members of the press that are advised President Buhari to sell those houses. But if those houses were then sold, then members can quietly enter their house or do some renovation. But because those houses are sold, members are now forced to acquire accommodation at an expensive price. And this democracy. It's not the fault of members. Members got loan to buy car. Some of those money, when people hear that some money is paid out, their loans, members are paying back. But people look at this as jumbo this. But personally, I'll be happy if the due process is observed and they say, well, all across board, everybody should reduce, salary should be reduced. I'll be happy to see the salary reduced. At least let members of the public be happy that we are buried. But don't forget that this house, on its own, this 8th assembly, on its own, have reduced their salary by about 30%. In other words, what our colleagues got while they were here, 7th assembly, 5th assembly got, what we are getting is 30% less than what they are getting. So a lot of sacrifices have been made, but we can still make further sacrifice. At least let the people who sent us here be happy. We are here, it's the taxpayers that brought us here, and we are here to represent elected us here. It will not be good for them to feel that we are earning too much more than what they are earning.
Now, our next report looks at the National Tobacco Control Act and its implementation.
3 months down the line since the National Tobacco Bill was signed into law by former President Goodluck Jonathan, activists say interference from tobacco companies has made the implementation difficult for the regulatory agency. The activists believe a similar interference also led to alteration of the original bill in favor of the companies.
In normal circumstances in other countries, what happens is that when you develop your regulations, you can just move ahead with implementation. But this act requires the Federal Minister of Health to go back to the National Assembly to get approval for implementing the law. That's a key challenge for us, because we do know that that particular clause was not in any of the versions of the National Tobacco Control bills that were presented, either as the executive bill or as a private member's bill. So what happened? Tobacco industry inserted that at the last minute.
For the regulatory agency, the idea of a regulatory agency seeking permission from the legislators before implementing a law as provided in the tobacco law is absurd and slows down the process.
It sounds a bit of an aberration to expect the executive to go back to Parliament whenever they want to carry out an assignment. Yeah, possibly because this is the first national tobacco control law in Nigeria. The Parliament felt they have to see what regulation would look like, maybe to obviate fears of the tobacco industry, for instance. So I still feel we can go ahead and do what we need to do. Yes, when after operating this law for about maybe 2 years, any of the impediments, flaws we find in those laws, we're likely to get back to Parliament to actually tease it out and make sure that it's seamless in operation. But I think the purpose is, who are the beneficiaries? If you create a little bit of schism, the beneficiaries are usually lawyers or maybe the industry, for instance. So they tend to create scenarios. We refer to it as filibustering, so that you have difficulties to start ab initio. So it's not a problem for us, really. Yeah, but it looks a bit out of phase to make a law within a law. So you might end up having to, so that you may not be able to take off ab initio, but I think one could work within the context of this scenario.
The group is also advocating for increased taxation as a better alternative to reduce access to and consumption of tobacco products.
What you want is prevent people from initiating smoking in the first place. You prevent them from initiating smoking because once they start, it gets them hooked to it. So that is why it's very, very important to make it unaffordable and inaccessible to the young people, because they might not know the consequences of what they are getting into. So as much as possible, we create awareness, informing people about the dangers of the use of tobacco, and also push the government to implement this cost-effective tax increase. Because the government, on the other hand, also stands to benefit. Because if you increase taxes on tobacco products, you would get revenue, which you can actually put into tobacco control activities as well.
Enjoying tremendous, benefit from tax policies in the country, and we are saying that there is no room for that any longer. Thank God for the new act, which actually have a very strong statement on tax policy. That Nigerian government, the tax agencies in Nigeria have to come together and bring up and increase tax on tobacco products. It is very, very important. And that actually goes in line with what we have with the recently published World Health Organization Tobacco Epidemic Report. As we heard from the country and from WHO, tax all over the world has been known to be one of the major singular measures to reduce tobacco among adults, among children, among smokers. It can never be overemphasized to say that when a stick of cigarettes goes from 5 naira to 20 naira, the level of consumption reduces automatically.
According to the World Health Organization, over 600 million direct tobacco smokers die annually, while another estimated 55 million lives are lost to secondhand smoking.